What's going on, Blue Bloods? Brandon Holmes here, one half of the Blue Bloods College Game Time podcast and YouTube channel, a place for the fans, by the fans, dropping fresh college sports content every day. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow us here below on our socials, as we greatly appreciate it, and you can stay up to date with all this college sports info that we're dropping. All right. Big Ten fans, specifically Michigan and Nebraska fans, this has been a crazy offseason as far as the coaching carousel, and both teams have made huge coaching moves per se that I believe are truly going to impact this team's success in the future as they're getting ready to go into spring ball and into a new season. I'll start with Michigan first because they have the biggest news of it all. They just had their head coach, Coach Jim Harbaugh, was flirting with going to the Minnesota Vikings. It didn't work out, and as soon as he returns, they lose their offensive coordinator in Josh Gaddis, who made a lateral move to become the offensive coordinator down there at the University of Miami just the other day, and it kind of set the college football world in an uproar about what's happening. And so I'll never blame another coach for doing what they feel like is best for them and their family. That's their decision. And honestly, I personally think Michigan is going to be absolutely fine. Here's what I see happening with the Michigan Wolverines. I believe Matt Weiss, who was the quarterback's coach at the University of Michigan, who was going to go to Minnesota with Jim Harbaugh if he received the job, and I believe become the offensive coordinator there because of he's like an analytics guru. I believe this is what happens. I believe Coach Harbaugh promotes Matt Weiss to be the co-offensive coordinator as well as keeping Coach Sharoni Moore as the co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. And I believe Matt Weiss will be in charge of play calling. I believe Sharoni Moore will be a part of kind of the run game, run coordinating, and continuously making sure that offensive line stays and doesn't drop off and continues to operate at an elite level as they did this year outside of maybe one game, and that was against Georgia. I think on top of that, he also gives a promotion to Mike Hart, who's the running back coach, to an associate head coach, a title he held at Indiana, and he will very much be involved in offensive game planning and some of those other things, and becoming Jim Harbaugh's right-hand man as a pseudo role is what he kind of played this year. A lot of people said Coach Hart was bridging the gap between Jim and the younger generation of these kids. And then I believe they bring Coach Ron Bellamy over from coaching safeties to what he was originally hired to coach in Michigan was the wide receivers. He just stepped over to safeties when they lost Coach Mo Linguist last minute right before spring ball as he went over to be the head coach at Buffalo. I don't see Michigan really having much of a drop-off. I mean, they still have an extra slot for a quarterback coach, and we'll see what Harbaugh decides to do with that extra quarterback slot. And then he also has Jay Harbaugh there as a tight ends coach. I think that offensive staff is fine. I think if he makes those internal hires, I think they might be even better because of the collaborative approach, and all of them want to hang their hats on running the football. Matt Weiss comes from the Ravens organization where they like to run the football. Sharoni Moore is an offensive line guy. He wants to run the football. Mike Hart, he is the greatest running back arguably that ever came out of the University of Michigan, or who played at the University of Michigan. What does he want to do? He wants to run the football. And Jim Harbaugh, the head honcho himself, has made his bread and butter off doing what? Running the football. And I believe Michigan is kind of turning a corner. They've kind of found their identity. I believe Coach Gaddis wanted them to be more spread. And if you saw this year, this offense looked a lot different from what he did his first 2 years. And I believe that's due to the collaborative approach of all these new coaches who came alongside, and they really ran the football. And I think Michigan's kind of just going to stake their flag in the ground, if I was them, and just say, this is who we are. We want to run the football down your throat. We're going to recruit big offensive linemen, great running backs, and then a great quarterback that can beat you in third down. And so I think Michigan's going to have great transition in this offense. I think they're going to be better because a lot of their offense was young this year. They returned 3/5 of their offensive line. They returned two of their quarterbacks, K. McNamara and the highly talented five-star kid, J.J. McCarthy. You return your two big-time running backs in Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, who's definitely due for a bigger role this year. You get Ronnie Bell back from an ACL injury. You get Roman Wilson. You have A.J. Henning. You return your two tight ends, Schoonmaker, Eric All. I mean, Michigan is reloading on the offensive line, not to mention they are having a Remington finalist transfer in at the center position. So they're going to be fine. And I think if they stick to the identity of running the football and then beating teams over the top with play action, they're going to be a great team. Now, Nebraska, who didn't have such a great year, had an amazing shakeup to their staff this year. And I think the biggest thing Scott Frost did, these two names I think are most important, right? Mickey Joseph former Nebraska player who was now coaching wide receivers, and then going to get offensive coordinator, Mark Whipple, and then they also added on offensive line coach Donovan Raiola, who I think is a swing or miss kind of product. He was the O-line coach for the Chicago Bears, and they didn't have a great O-line last year, but I think it's a swing, and we'll see. Either he'll be a hit or he won't, but if he can just bring some stability to the offensive line, I think they're great. But tell me, this is why I believe Joseph and Whipple are the greatest hires Frost could have made. Now, Joseph is an A-plus recruiter. You're already seeing it pay dividends on the recruiting trail as Nebraska fans. Some of the big-time talent he's bringing through the transfer portal, that he's bringing from that southeastern region of the country, being at LSU, and you're seeing some of the speed and the talent that he's bringing in, and I'm excited to see what he does with that wide receiver room. Also, when they added in the freshman class, they added some nice wide receivers. They added a speedy guy and they added a big body guy, and I'm excited to see what they do there. But Mark Whipple, I think, is the key to everything in Nebraska this year. Here's why. We saw what he did at Pittsburgh this past year, and he took from Kenny Pickett being a potential day 2, day 3 quarterback, and everyone's saying Kenny Pickett is going to be the number 1. He's QB1 in this year's NFL draft. He's going to be the first quarterback off the board. And that's all due to Whipple. I think if I'm Mark Whipple, I can call any. And we saw how that paid dividends even on the recruiting trail this year, bringing in Casey Thompson, bringing in Chubba Purdy. I mean, all he had to do was say, "Look at the tape. Look at the tape." Call Kenny Pickett and ask him how his life is about to change based upon my offensive concepts and how I put him in the right place to succeed, and also gave him a great year. And I think Whipple is going to be very important. I don't think Scott Frost goes away from the fully of the option elements he adds. I think that's just part of who he is as an offensive guy, as a coach. But I think Whipple can add some of those concepts as well as some of his preferences, and they can make something work. I mean, when you look at who they have at the quarterback position, Casey Thompson had a great year at the University of Texas. And I mean, yes, towards the back end it fell off, but that was due to a thumb injury. And if you play quarterback, your thumb's a big important part of you playing well. So I think Whipple is like the key offensive hire this year for Nebraska. I think due to his game planning and the things that he's going to do, he's going to help take Nebraska to the next level. So I think Michigan is still going to have some fluidity this year and I think they're still going to be one of the top 2 teams in the Big Ten. But I think with the offensive hires that Scott Frost made in Nebraska, do not be shocked if Nebraska finishes in the top 5 of the conference. And do not be shocked, and I've been saying this all offseason, I would not be shocked if Nebraska ended up winning the Big Ten West, and they end up representing the Big Ten West in the conference championship in Indianapolis this year. So, tell me what you guys think. How do you feel about the coaching hires? How do you feel about the movement going on your prospective teams? Leave us in the comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you give us a like. Once again, Brandon Holmes here, one half of the Blue Bloods College Game Time podcast and YouTube channel. Hope you guys have a great one. Peace.